The shocking truth about Meghan and Harry's fake chase in New York City is exposed. Sell the soul for $50. A source has just revealed that $50 for worldwide headlines are the best publicity stunt ever. Mr. Singh is a New York City taxi driver, and he was paid $50 for a 10-minute drive around the block. And he said, no, that's not true. There was no danger whatsoever. His passengers, however, Doria and Harry and Meghan and that security guy, claim to have experienced a 2-hour paparazzi chase across New York. They even compared it to the chase that resulted in Diana's tragic death. But it's simply wrong to make that comparison. For starters, Mr. Singh wasn't drunk, and there was no high-speed chase whatsoever. And secondly, the million-dollar question is why exactly did they leave their own security SUV that had the blacked-out windows? Why did they decide to just get into an ordinary yellow cab where they could be clearly seen? The real Hollywood A-listers were in Venice. They were at the Bulgari jewelry launch. So Meghan and Harry were trying to get some attention for themselves. Now, to be fair, they did get a lot of attention for that. But didn't it make Harry look like an absolute wimp? There's a photo of the three of them in the back of the taxi, and Meghan looks so relaxed in her weird plastic dress. Doria seemed like she was looking at her phone, and Harry just has an idiotic look on his face. The security guy was sitting in front, and he told the taxi driver to take them back to the SUV. Now, the cab fare was $18, so they just made a little trip around the block. They were in the taxi just long enough to have some photos taken. And it didn't seem like Harry was experiencing any PTSD as the cameras were flashing. Worldwide headlines, all news services were covering this stupid story. You know, I would guess that the president of Ukraine would love the same news resources for $50. His people have to deal with so many broken promises from the West. There is no reason that this charity event night in New York should have been covered like that. The source also claims that Meghan left the venue and then she understood that they were not going to get the attention that they wanted with their tinted windows. So she asked her driver to take her to the closest police station to be filmed. She figured it would be really great to get some footage of her running in to get out of those catastrophic circumstances. Well, the police took a look around, saw that there was no real danger, and they said, all right, well, I guess we can hail you a cab if that would help. And at that point, she was basically backed into a corner, because if they didn't get in the cab, then of course eyebrows would raise. So they did, and at the first chance, they asked to be taken back to their vehicle that actually is a lot safer. And then they were driven to wherever they were staying without any problems. And then, of course, they released this whole narrative drumming up the situation to try to match the catastrophic storyline that Meghan pitched to the police. I still remember when I first saw that headline, I looked at my husband and I said, look at what they have done now. I knew that this was all BS. I have driven around Manhattan before. People can walk a lot faster than you can drive. And now the taxi driver has come forward and said that he was given $50 to just do a little drive around the block. Boy, did Meghan and Harry bury themselves with this nonsense. Could they be any more out of touch? I mean, something is seriously wrong with their brains. They are a danger to the public as well as themselves. If those children are real, I am so worried about them. Social services needs to step in and take these invisible kids to a better environment. Being at home with those two crazy people cannot be good. It's absurd and disgusting. What won't they do to get attention? But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they'll ever learn from their mistakes because they're narcissists. And narcissists always believe that they're the smartest people. Harry and Meghan have told so many lies over the past 3 years, probably even longer actually. And after every single lie, the people involved came forward and said that's not what happened. Great example would be when the Archbishop of Canterbury had to come out and say that no, they were not married 3 days before the spectacle wedding, as Meghan called it. And do you remember how Mandela's family had to tell Meghan and the whole world that her marriage cannot possibly be compared to Mandela's release from prison? Harry and Meghan made up a sensational stunt that would remind people of Diana's tragic car crash. And then New Yorkers all came out and said, "You are lying again." Another thing is that just last week, some media people in Germany and Switzerland reported that the cab driver said it was only a 10-minute ride, and it was certainly no chase. The paparazzi were taking photos at the traffic lights. That's all that happened. So again, we see Meghan and Harry's statement being doubted. And I'm pretty sure I know exactly why they portrayed it so dramatically. It has everything to do with Harry still fighting for his security protection in the UK. They're a couple of nutcases. Mental illness does not even cover what they have. I mean, what in the world is going on? How desperate are the two of them? They are such a danger to the public at this point. What, are they trying to prove to everybody they need IPP status and maybe they'll get the king and the rest of the royals to feel sorry for them? Well, it's not going to work. Nobody can believe that there could possibly be a 2-hour chase in New York City. Come on. Even people who've never visited the place know that there's way too much traffic. And not only that, but the taxi driver himself came out and said it never happened. And ordinary people would have taken videos and photos of it. I would have if I were there. Ugh, those two are just a couple of pathetic liars. And I would guess they did it because he lost his case in the UK. They want to convince everybody that because they have those titles, they're so much more important than everybody else, and so paparazzi chase them around. So I've got an idea. In the interest of keeping everyone safe, maybe the titles really should be removed, so that way this terrifying situation can never occur again. Problem solved. For the past 3 years now, really even longer than that, they have been doing the same stunts over and over again to try to make themselves look like victims. They will go to any lengths to appear important. Just think of all the people involved in their narcissistic hoaxes. The mayor of New York, the NYPD, the Ziegfeld Theater, Mr. Singh, the cab driver, international media, Backgrid. The list goes on and on. And why? What exactly did they achieve in all of this? Anybody who has ever visited New York City understands that they orchestrated this little stunt. They're a couple of narcissistic fools with egos that simply do not match reality. When are they going to stop? I mean, the whole world is laughing at them, and they don't seem to realize that. They need to get it through their thick skulls that they're not important. The worldwide privacy tour is getting really old. It's time for the two of them to go live the peaceful, quiet lives they say they want to live. And another source claims that they were being chased by the police and the paparazzi were just running for their lives. Now, Meghan would say that they had confused the two groups at the time because they were so disoriented. It was such a dangerous situation and they weren't thinking straight. And it felt like 2 hours because their lives were flashing before their very eyes. That was the danger that they found themselves in. Everything was just happening in slow motion. And then they spent 24 hours in an emergency room at some mystery hospital, and the whole incident was all reported a couple of days before it even happened, and nobody even asked if they were okay. Oh, and Harry had blue lodged Meghan at the start of the Fast and Furious chase, and she ended up miscarrying again. You know their truth is going to be something along those lines, a bunch of nonsense. Let's not forget that Saint Diana appeared before them to guide them through this traumatic event. Anybody who has spent time in Manhattan understands that you cannot conduct a near-catastrophic car chase for even 5 minutes, and definitely not 2 hours, come on. They basically called Harry and Meghan a couple of liars, because they are. Just when you thought they couldn't sink any lower, well, there they go. And do you agree with the views in my video? If yes, don't be afraid to like and share my video with anybody else who needs it. If not, please tell me the reason, and we can also talk about the gruesome twosome. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.